Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our first meeting of 2021. Hopefully this year goes better than last year. Hopefully everybody also had some rest during the break and without a lot of meetings, at least not in the United States. So everybody got a chance to reconnect with family and just spend some time outside of work. We have a few updates today. I'll try to see if we can get through everything in the 25 minutes that we have. I'm gonna skip the first one. I'll do that in a little bit. Let's start with the second item, which is if anyone is interested in attending this meeting and you want to attend this on a frequent basis, please go ahead and join this Google group, Kubernetes SIG Windows, because that's where we send the calendar invite. So please make sure you're a member of this group. We will likely update our calendar invite for the new year. So after today, we'll cancel the existing calendar invite and I'm gonna send a new one. The second item, Mark, you wanna talk about the James and the contributor award?
Yeah, so we missed this at the last meeting, but we wanted to just give a shout out to James, who won the contributor award for SIG Windows. We wanted to highlight all of the work that he's done with, first of all, coming up to speed kind of pretty rapidly with all of the Windows work, and then also all of the work that he's done with the cluster API and Windows support. So congratulations, James.
Absolutely. When I echo that, James, you've been doing great lately, and not lately, ever since you joined the SIG, and we need to reward you for a lot of the work that you've done, and keep it up. You've been a great contributor to the project. Next item, really quickly, KubeCon. There was an email that went out to some of the incubating and graduate projects to basically get their session for KubeCon EU. Mark, if you haven't gotten that, I will search for that email and see if I can find why we didn't get one for SIG Windows. You may have gotten, that's why I'm asking, but either or, we'll get a chance for a session. We'll likely sign one up, and I know we had some great ideas since last session for things that we could try to do here, right?
Yeah, I don't think I got one. I'll have to check on that too.
I will check on it and send me a message. I'll look as well and see if I can figure out why, if I didn't get it, why you didn't get it either.
Okay,
all right. Next one, I want to talk a little bit about our 121 investments. Kind of moving forward and kind of trying to set the stage in terms of where 121 will go, right? So we have privileged containers where the KEP PR is merged in provision state. We have some of the work around scripting event logs, where we potentially might need the KEP owner here, a KEP as well as a KEP owner. Load balancing health checks for external traffic policy. That's some of the work that David, I don't see David on today, but David and team were looking into. Then cluster API, Azure is merged, but we don't really have a clear picture for everything else. Then we have Containerd, CSI storage, and then the last one, the GPU device support, that got merged over the break, which was great to actually see that. So well, it was merged and broke some things. So thank you, James, for and a few others, and Jay and others that contributed to kind of fixing that very quickly over the break and get that back to green. But it was great to see that. That was a PR that's been sitting around for a while. Are we missing anything here from 121? And is there anybody that's willing to kind of step up and help us in some of these areas?
So Mike, I can help with doing the KEP for the scraping event logs. This is something someone from my team started, so I can handle that.
Very nice, thank you, Aravind. So let's get a KEP ready. It doesn't have to be too huge, right? It's not a huge amount of work here, right? So the KEP, let's keep it scope to basically to the work involved, make it simple. That way you can just get past very quickly and get that approved. Thank you for taking ownership of that.
Oh, no worries, thank you.
Hey,
Gab,
Aravind,
yeah,
please include me as well in this one, the scraping the logs. I am getting a lot of requests on this one. So if you could just include me in like or CC me when you create the kit, I would
Okay,
love to
yeah.
help.
Yeah, I'll try and open a work in progress one within next couple of weeks.
I don't remember the date for the KEP deadline for 121. I'm trying to find it really quickly right now.
Oh yeah, that'll be good to know.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'll find the deadlines. While I'm doing that, Gab, I'm kind of looking at you sideways. Do you not for the vSphere CSI proxy work? What's your thinking there, Gab?
Yeah, you can put my
Some-
name down. I've been looking into it already, so makes sense.
We likely don't need a KEP here, but we kind of need someone to scope the work and basically start executing on it, right? So when you get a chance, just kind of keep us up to date on that as well.
Sure.
All right. Anything anybody else wants to own here?
Michael, what's the, sorry, just one question. What's the ETA on the vSphere CSI proxy again? Sorry, I think I missed it.
So there's no ETA right now. So this is basically shipping out of the Kubernetes release cycle. So Gab is gonna scope the work and start working on it. We don't have a specific date here, but if anybody's interested and can help accelerate that, I'm sure Gab will welcome additional work and additional contributions here.
Cool, thank you.
So kind of, let me open up the dates here really quickly. This is the release dates for 121. Okay, they changed the links.
No, I don't
So-
see a release for 121 yet.
Oh
I think
yeah,
that would have been
that's
the
why
correct link. Yeah, I was just
that's having
checking.
the correct link, but it's not, doesn't exist. Okay, so I mean, let me go back. So 119, sorry, 117. That was around the same time frame. Their dates was end of January, right?
I
Nope,
don't
sorry,
even see a PR for a 121 proposed dates yet either. So
sorry. Yeah, well, I'm thinking like in the past they targeted end of January for the enhancements freeze.
mhm.
So assume we have at least 3 weeks. So, but Aramin, go ahead and create the KEP as early as possible. That way it gives us enough time to review it and get it in there. But kind of looking at our big boulders for next release, right? Is the GMSA work that we're fixing for Containerd, improving Containerd, privileged containers is way up there. Doing some more enhancements around eventing, traffic policy, cluster API, and then obviously some of the CSI work that potentially is going to happen here. And I think it looks like we have owners for everybody here, for everything here.
Do you have owner for the privileged container, Michael? I think Brandon is now driving it since Amber has transitioned out.
Yeah, so we talked about that last time, right?
Yep.
So
Do we have any investments we're making into the testing and infrastructure side of things? In terms of, I know James was working real hard on that over the break, and I'm just getting up to speed on how all of our CI works. And I wouldn't mind shadowing someone to help more or just digging into some stuff, but I know there's a lot of random stuff like some of the container. I know there's some container DCI stuff that needed to be done. And I believe there was some stuff related to 1909 images. But that's all.
Yeah, Adelina and Claudio have been, along with Mark and Mas, have been kind of shepherding a lot of the leadership around our CI and some of the work there. Jay, if you have bandwidth and you can contribute and assist in some of those areas and help accelerate or bring in a needed capability that we don't have today, I'll say sync with Claudio and Adelina and let's figure out where you can contribute.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I hung out with Claudio last week. He helped me a lot to understand things. So I'll just keep doing that.
Okay. The one thing I guess I should have talked about, so for cluster API, Azure is merged, but we haven't kind of taken a stock of GCP or AWS. is like Jay or anybody else from the Kabi team. Does anybody know what's the status for AWS or so there's 3 cluster API providers that we care about a lot, right? So it's vSphere, AWS, and GCP. Do you know what the status is for all of those? Is anybody working on them?
Speak for AWS. The like the provider, there are no provider changes needed, and the image builder I sent out a PR for, and that's sufficient to get Windows nodes up.
Very nice, thank you, Gab.
I'm just closing out some of the vSphere image builder stuff that James commented on before the end of the year. And then there's an issue with nested hypervirtualization hypervisors that we're trying to just get an idea or a steer on, and James is helping me with that in Slack. So
What is the what's the ultimate conclusion there? Are we going to try to get your Hyper-V independent vSwitch enablement stuff into upstream somehow, or?
I think that would be ideal, but
so I've put a request into the Windows containers issues. I put an issue in just to sort of talk about whether we could add the VM switch stuff into the containers feature, or at least split it out so it's a separate thing to install. That would get around the issue because you wouldn't actually have to install Hyper-V for most installs unless you're using Hyper-V isolation. That's kind of the last thing that's relying on the Hyper-V role. But the other way of doing it is, I think we've found a way of being able to just enable the feature without it checking whether nested virt is enabled on the CPU. But it just makes it a little bit more, I guess, messy. That's what me and James were talking about earlier.
Yeah. Okay, I just saw the Slack thread. Okay, cool. All right, cool. I just wanted to bring that up. I kind of know some of that because I talked to Perry earlier. I just want to make sure we talked about it together. Okay, cool.
And then Jerry mentioned that we don't know if there's anybody looking at cluster API for GCP. Jeremy, is this something that you might be able to nudge a few folks at Google and see if we can get someone involved?
For right now, this hasn't really been a priority for us. I mean, I could look back and see, but as of right now, we haven't had any plans. We haven't scoped this at all.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I mean, if this opportunity ever comes up for a discussion on this, Jeremy, we'd love to see if we can actually get that scoped out and added. That way we can have comprehensive Kabi support across the board for Windows.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure thing.
Thank you.
If someone were to get some of that started, do you think it would be interesting to you all, or is it just totally off the radar?
It's more or less off the radar at this point. This isn't something we've like really looked into just overall.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Do we want to, especially since Jeremy's here, do we want to add node problem detector for Windows to the list of 121 advancements? I think that there was a proposal passed around kind of in 120 gathering ideas, and there were hopefully plans to make some progress on here or on that in the next couple of releases.
Yeah, absolutely. Who's going to shepherd that, Mark? Do you know? I know in the past.
I think Jeremy Edwards was looking at it. I believe he was going to just kind of help incubate / kickstart it and then look for other maintainers. Is that still the case, Jeremy?
Yeah, so actually it's now building for Windows. So the PRs for it are now to get it to build or in. The next step is to make it run as a Windows service. And then we do have somebody on our side that will be working on this, though. If anybody wants to help out with like whatever other problems they want to detect, you know, feel free to add to the document and contribute code. We'll be basically implementing the things that we're mostly concerned about for now, mainly because we didn't really get much feedback. We got some in terms of what was important. So like basically right now, whatever is implemented will be like the things that the one or two things the community said that was important, which ended up aligning pretty well with Google.
Got it. Yeah, I think, Jeremy, once you and your team kind of finish this off, and maybe we'll write a small blog post about it, or post some documentation on both for contributors as well as operators of Windows, or definitely should make it into the docs as well. Once you do that, folks are going to identify areas where they need additional help, or they need to basically, and then they go and amend the problem detector and add additional things that it will start detecting, additional things it's going to look for, and so on and so forth. So I think it is going to be almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Once it's actually out there and it adds value, folks are going to start using it, and then they're going to add their own extensions to it. Thank you for kickstarting this.
No problem. Yeah, that's kind of how I thought it was going to go down as well. So I'm not like too concerned or anything like that. But yeah, the first version of it will have like a fairly small scope, just so that we can get it out. And I don't think it'll be tied. I'm not sure like how, since no problem detector is a Kubernetes add-on, I don't think it's actually tied to a particular release of Kubernetes. Though I'll give a heads up of when it's like in a state that it can be used.
I think the only thing that's tied to something is the documentation that we'll have to build, that we'll have to write for it.
All right, that sounds good. That's good to know. All
right, the next item, I've added it as part of the discussions I've been having with a lot of you around image builder and AWS, Azure, GCP, Windows images. I have a couple of questions out of curiosity, and I think Jay and I had a discussion on this as well. Are cloud providers gonna bake the kubelet into the images, and I'd love to have a small discussion on this. Are we gonna rely on kubeadm actions to kind of use a gold Windows image like the gold image that Azure has, or AWS, for example, or GCP, and then bake the kubelet using kubeadm actions? What's some of the thoughts here?
So I guess I think for the Windows, at least initially, I was baking kubelet into the image. It needs to be installed with NSSM to be able to support some of the kubeadm functionality. And I modeled that after the way they're doing it on Linux is they install kubelet. It's assumed to be there. I'm not super familiar with kubeadm actions, so I assume that provides a way to be able to do something when the init gets called.
Yeah, so they're basically what they're saying here is if we need to bake it, then we need customized images for Windows at every cloud provider, right? That cluster API will use. Either that or a customer will have to create it, right? So basically what you're saying is every customer of ours that wants to use this, or every consumer of this, they'll have to basically bring their own image, or basically get the Azure image, download it, add kubelet in it, re-upload it, and they have to do that with every release version, right?
Right now it comes with kubelet installed on the image. So they can just, if they choose to use the kind of image that's baked into, or that's provided by CapZ, it will have kubelet on it, and they don't have to do any modification of the images.
Okay, so the provisioning engine from Azure will produce a CapZ image for Windows that can be used for this, and that will have the kubelet baked in.
Yes, yep. It has everything you need baked in right now. This actually kind of comes up to something Mark and I were discussing a little bit yesterday that we weren't sure if we had time to talk about, but and we've had this conversation in Slack as well, but with Containerd, the way that the CNI is installed with Docker in Cluster API right now is it's being added at provisioning time. And we're using the host network, like a kind of a hack around the host network. And that's causing issues when we go to containerd because containerd doesn't behave the same way as Docker does with the flag of host network, which is giving an extra IP address. And so one of the workarounds here is to install the CNI at when you're building the image via image builder, but that would cause you to have to kind of choose your CNI up front and not be able to just kind of use CapZ or any of the CAPI providers to just and deploy your own image. You'd have to go kind of make sure you have the right one. The hope is with the privileged container support, because we'll be able to run things on the node, and we also get that host node network. This problem kind of goes away for the CNI, but I think we need to figure out if that's an acceptable thing for all the providers, or if we need to do it.
You're saying like when you're building the image, you have like a opt/CNI directory like built into the image, so that as soon as it comes up, like a kubelet looks like it's got a CNI already running.
That's how we'd have to do it with containerd because of the limitation with the host network. Like the pod, like the CNI pod won't come up because it doesn't have an IP address, because Windows doesn't have the host network with containerd. We kind of work around that with the host network flag on the pod spec in Docker, because Docker doesn't really check whether or not there's a host network for Windows. It just if there's a network already on the host called host, I think it is, then it just attaches it to that, and so it gets an IP address. But the problem is that doesn't work in containerd because it doesn't kind of have that like workaround. I think
It doesn't have the power to do that type of stuff because it's Docker's like baked into Windows, right?
Yeah, I think essentially with Docker and Docker shim, if you set the host network to true on the pod spec, it essentially just adds like -- network equals host into when it creates the containers, and assumes that there's already a network configured on the host. With containerd, things happen quite a bit differently, and maybe we should have a longer discussion next week. But for containerd, there's a field that says if host network is true, that gets passed over to the CRI calls to configure everything. And the Windows code paths in containerd itself are basically saying this is not supported. We're not going to do anything here. So we'll need to likely make updates in Kubernetes and in containerd to support this for Windows containers.
It's basically like Docker shim itself was kind of like a privileged container that we don't have anymore.
Yeah, essentially.
All right, yeah, but Mark, add it to the agenda for next week, and we can continue the discussion.
Yeah, we'll go into a deeper discussion next week and figure out what we want to do going forward.
All right, so I got one last update, and then we'll switch to Aravind for the last one. So after 5 years of kind of helping and shepherding SIG Windows, I'm gonna be stepping down as a chair, probably effective as soon as reasonably possible. I might make the PR today. I'm actually leaving VMware to join a consulting and services company. And it's been a blast working with a lot of you throughout the years, from like some of the folks that's been around for many years now, to some of the newer folks that have joined our community and kind of helped us grow. I'm super proud of all the work that we've done, all of us together, and kind of brought Windows from obscurity to a viable path forward for folks that are looking to modernize their workloads into Kubernetes and into containers. So very proud of all the work that we did. Even though I won't be a builder, or I won't be able to help build this community anymore, I will be a consumer and I'll be a huge advocate for not only Kubernetes, but also the Windows effort that we've done and some of the other projects. I'm actually going to be stepping down as a maintainer for also some of the other projects I own, like Harbor and Contour that are in the CNCF, one graduate, one incubating. And as part of that change of the guard, Ben Moss is also stepping down due to some other priorities. He's going to be stepping down from a technical lead. And we've gotten no objections to our two proposals. So Jay Vass and James are going to be our two additional tech leads on SIG Windows, joining Deep DeBroy, that's one of the remaining old guard tech leads. So big congratulations to Gab, to Jay and James for their contributions and their recognition as technical leads. We'll PR you in very soon. And when I use this also as an open call, if anybody's interested in stepping up their contributions to our SIG and become a chair, please contact Mark, and he will, Mark and the rest of the tech leads will work with you and figure out a path forward and how to make that happen.
Yeah, and I want to thank Michael for all of his contributions here. He's been involved in this much longer than I have, but I know he was very heavily involved kind of with the initial effort to GA Windows containers in Kubernetes, and kind of has a huge impact on all aspects of kind of Windows containers in the community, even outside of Kubernetes. So thank you, Michael, and want to wish you the best of luck in your new endeavors.
Thanks, Mark. I'll attend next meeting as well, and after that I'll probably start scaling down since I'll be starting my new gig. And but if you ever need me, ping me on LinkedIn or even on the Kubernetes Slack. I'll try to monitor that on and off. All right, Aravind, you want to give us a quick update on the Windows container support by Red Hat?
Yes. So towards the end of last year, December 14th or December 18th, I think, we have GA'd our Windows container support for Red Hat OpenShift. So it's fully supported by us now. It's out in the open. I've also linked to the blog that makes the announcement, and I've also linked to a demo, which is more like a Twitch session with our PM and a couple of my manager Gabe, who's also on this call. So folks who are interested in some dialogue around our release road, you can check out the demo. But yeah, just wanted to call out that we are now well and truly GA'd for Windows containers in OpenShift.
Very nice. Congratulations, team. This is awesome to see.
Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Cool. All right, we're at time. Well, everybody, have a great start of your year. Happy New Year. And I will personally see you next week as well. This SIG has done incredible work, and I'm very confident we're going to continue kicking butt and delivering great things. So I look forward to 121. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Yep. Bye, all.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, Mike, for everything.